Fantasy Football Talk. We are here. My name is Rodney, and this is Jasper. They call him J.J. for short.
What's up?
We're new to this thing, so, just give us a chance, get with us, and, we can have some fun. We talk fantasy football. Both experienced guys, and, just dig in with us. If you got any questions, just let us know. We're going to have some for you. First of all, we're going to start off with a few things while we're doing the podcast. Obviously, me and JJ been playing fantasy together for about 10 years, if I'm not mistaken. And we talk every day about fantasy football. So it was like, hey, let's start a podcast, man, because people might want to know what we got to talk about. That's how I feel about it. What do you think, JJ?
Yo, like you said, we've been in this for a minute. I first started 2005 was the first league I was in, and I went from playing in one league to playing in 2 to 3. Now I'm in 6, and like I said, we play in 3 leagues together. So when we have drafts and stuff, we're always the two sitting analyzing the board. I see people do it every other draft, trying to see who's going to come out at the top of the list of the year. And so, people gather around when we do it. And like I said, we talk weekly during the fantasy football season. Yes. So it's hey, we doing this anyway. Why not invite some other people in to be a part of it? So like I said, hopefully you guys like what you see. Join in the conversation. Send us a comment if you have a question. Like us on Facebook. Leave messages there, and if you listen to this, I'm figuring most likely you don't have Matthew Berry on speed dial. He's not going to answer your questions. So holler at us, and, we can get the conversation going.
Well, I've been doing fantasy since 2008. I got in it because of my best friend, my brother, Kwame, and he got me into it. Man, that first year was rough. I think I went 11. I went 2-11 that year.
Right.
But since then, I have learned to play, and I started with 1. Now I'm in 5. So it's something I love to do, and hey, keep me going. So
yeah,
that's how we do it.
Yeah.
Now the thing is, what we have to offer to y'all is we play in 2 different kinds of leagues. We play in a 2 quarterback league, and we play in a 1 quarterback league. So, and they offer 2 different things.
Yeah.
Different scoring, different, just everything and all. More than likely, I like the 2 quarterback league over the 1 because of the scoring.
Right.
But JJ may have a different feeling.
I love 2 quarterbacks, but the thing about the 2 quarterback league is you need the right number of people, because I've been in 2 quarterback leagues where they had 16 people in it, and I was like, what are we doing? There's 32 football teams. So, no, it doesn't work out. So if you have a small league, 10, maybe 12, 2 quarterback leagues can be a lot of fun. But I still like the traditional 1 quarterback league a little bit more. Only because, and this would be putting one of our leagues on blast. We play in what's the 2 quarterback leagues, and you got certain people putting 4 or 5 quarterbacks on the league. Man, you struggling trying to get through. In my case, let's say you draft Andrew Luck the week before he decides to retire, and then the rest of the season you just scrambling picking up anybody you can get as quarterbacks like Josh Rosen and whoever is not injured for the Pittsburgh Steelers that week. And it's a struggle. You don't have that in 1 quarterback leagues. So
you don't. But good thing about 2 quarterback leagues is more scoring. Obviously,
points are nice,
and you have to be on your P's and Q's. You have to pick the right pair of quarterbacks to run with, because if you don't, you're gonna end up with the Josh Rosens of the world. In those quarterbacks, they don't get you points.
Again, now, my quarterback retired the week before the season. So.
Exactly.
So
but sometimes you got to pay attention to that stuff, because I told you not to draft him.
Whatever.
But you still did it anyway. But that's neither here or there. So that's my thing. But like I say, 1 quarterback is fine. two quarterbacks is fine. It's more of a preference for anybody if you want to do it that way.
Right.
But so now that we got to that, what we can really bring to the podcast game as far as fantasy football. I mean, you have your Matthew Berries out there and all that stuff, but that's more of nationwide. ESPN. We're more of a local guys. So, and we're more, we can be kind of close to you. So,
right.
You can't be way up in Jersey with those guys in ESPN. So we're kind of close. I'm in Virginia and he's in DC. So it's like if you have any questions, you just hit us on our page, R&J Fantasy Football Talk. We'll definitely get back with you. You have any questions, we'll get back with you. And we're just trying to make this thing, popping and happening.
It's supposed
every week. We try to do it every week until the playoffs, because the playoffs start this week for most fantasy football leagues. Yeah. So, we're going to do it to the end of the playoffs, and then going into next year, we're going to do it every week next year for fantasy. So, but it's just a trial run, and we're just trying to get our feet,
Getting our feet wet, catching our voices, seeing what we do.
So, definitely. So I got a couple questions for the people. How did your seasons go in all your leagues so far? I mean, I know you're in 6. How did they go so far for
you? Well, I can probably announce I made the playoffs in all 6 of my leagues because, I'm that good. But it was crazy. This was like a really wild year because it's 6 different leagues. One of the leagues is sort of like brand new. And so of the 8, it's a small 8-team league, right? And about 4 of us have played fantasy football. The other 4, they're kind of, trying to figure it out. So
kind of new.
That's one of those, if I don't get in the championship game, I'm going to be mad at myself. So I'm in first place in that league. So, that one's working out. The other leagues, I'm ranging between like 4th, about 3rd, 4th place. All of them in the playoffs. But the one league in particular that I say was crazy is the one where I didn't make the playoffs until the very last week. This is the one we played in the longest together. And it's been like a wow. It's usually close between the players in there, but this season in particular, it's like all the records were close with the exception of like 4 teams, but they were close and terrible. It's like no one had a winning record after the first 5 teams. Everyone else was just losing games all over the place. So I ended up, I ended up with a tie in 1 week, and that tie is literally what got me in the playoffs. So it was a weird year for me because I was all the scoring in like 5 of my games came down to like 3 points or less. Stat corrections, I think, are the bane of fantasy football. And I had 4 different games decided by stat correction. So I thought I won on Tuesday, and by Thursday, they was telling me I lost. And it happened so many times. But one of them ended up in a tie. I made the playoffs, so I'm 6 for 6. So I'm trying to at least come away with another championship. I have 7 on my trophy case right now. I'm trying to add number 8, 9, and 10. What about you?
Unfortunately, people, in that league, I did finish tops at 11 and 10. Just to let you know.
That particular league, he did all right.
Don't be hating. It's okay. I have 7 championships on my trophy case, and I'm trying to get some this year. I'm in 5 leagues. I commissioned 3, and me and him, we commissioned 2, co-commission, and I commissioned 2 other. So it's tough for me because I have to be commissioner of 4 leagues, and I have to sit back and play in 1. So I have to kind of deal with everything that comes along with the leagues in itself and concentrate on my league. So it's hard, but I make do, and I made the playoffs in 3 out of 5 leagues. So I think I did pretty well to be kind of dealing with all that stuff. So, and I missed the playoffs by 1 game in 1 league.
All right.
So I'm good with that. I'm happy, but I'm gonna try to do better next year because I want to make the league. I want to playoffs in all my leagues, but I strive to do that, but we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
one day you'll be like me, you know. But
Okay, whatever.
but
Now,
that's the thing about fantasy football. You know what I'm saying? 3 out of 5 isn't
absolutely.
bad because it's a definite skill to do it. Because some people we both know,
Oh yeah,
they play, and I
but they're not
appreciate
good.
them donating money to me when I win championships. But some people don't quite have the skills, but they enjoy the game. But even no matter how skilled you may be, there's always the element of luck. Uh, like I said
Well,
earlier,
all
if
day.
if your quarterback retires, before the season starts, you have injuries that are always something you got to account for. And sometimes success in fantasy is just my team stay healthy. That can be the difference
Hey,
between making it and not making it.
I agree with you on the luck, and I definitely agree with you on the injuries because luck is very much
Yeah,
a part of fantasy. You have to have people do things that they normally don't do. You kind of basing, especially if you play in a league that's based on paying. If you're paying out in that league, you gotta kind of like me. You can vouch for this. We play in leagues where it's
yeah,
$150 buy-in. So, and the thing is, you have to really pay attention because the stakes are high in that league as
right,
far as what you can win at the end of the year. So you're looking at about $1,100 you could possibly win at the end of the year by just putting in 150. And if you don't pay attention and it slip past you, you're like,
yeah,
man, I messed up again. And you play the wrong person, it don't do you no better sitting on the bench. So it's like, okay, that'll work. But it is what it is.
hey.
Now, JJ, how do you feel the season went as far as your top 5 quarterbacks? Or can you name top 5 quarterbacks that you have this year coming out? I mean, that's in the
Well,
league right now.
the I'm gonna answer this two different ways.
Okay.
Quarterbacks I have and quarterbacks I thought were going to be good in the draft, whether I had them or not,
Okay.
and whether I got it right or wrong. My number one quarterback, and we actually started these discussions about what we wanted to do with this podcast, like in the summer. So this is our first show, but we've been talking about it for a minute. So during the summer,
Okay.
we had like a whole list of okay, these are going to be the quarterbacks, running backs, whatever I'm going to recommend, and I I'm gonna talk about this first guy, Jared Goff, that I had really high on my list. Right, y'all saw last season, Jared Goff was on fire for the most part last year, and so I was like, this year they're gonna come in. So I drafted him in a few of the leagues that I had, thinking,
But I
okay,
told you I wasn't sold on him. I was not
you were
sold.
not
I
sold.
told you
So
that.
in this case,
So,
one of my tops were bad. Now, another case, let's go with the obvious right answer is Pat Mahomes. So who didn't try to get him their first round pick. So
see, but again, Pat Mahomes he's really a good. He's a top 5, but I think he fell off from last year
well,
because
he one got injured. So you gotta count.
that's
You
true.
gotta count for that. But and my wife. I let y'all know a little bit about myself. She's from Kansas City, so she follows the Chiefs like diehard, right? So and we've had discussion about how well he played that first year, but we both knew going in this year it wasn't going to quite match it because you get film on the guy. In the NFL, these
That's
coaches are
true.
pretty good. So the more film they got on him, you know, he's not going to throw 5 touchdowns every game. But still, aside from that injury, he's been putting up mad numbers. I'm gonna go to the other end and say a quarterback I did not expect to do so well, and I don't feel bad about it because I know you didn't either, and half the audience probably didn't. Lamar Jackson. I was like,
I
in one of
wasn't
our
sold on
drafts.
Lamar.
Remember, in one of our drafts, a unnamed person called for Lamar Jackson in the first round, and everybody bust out laughing because like that has to be the stupidest pick you could
What
possibly
was he
make.
thinking?
I still don't think it was a good pick because he could have got Lamar Jackson a lot later. But my man is balling out right now, and I think that's the same kind of thing that Pat Mahomes had last year, where he
Now, if you had to do
he's
it all over
unexpected.
again, though,
Yo,
would you take Lamar?
not
I'm
that
gonna be
early.
honest. I still wouldn't take Lamar that high.
No, not that
Then
high.
next,
No, see, because you could shoot. you could have gotten him. Let's say you went crazy, and I'm gonna pick Lamar Jackson in the third round. You still would have turned out really good with that pick, and you could have had another quarterback. Let's say you could have picked up a Aaron Rodgers or whatever, and then just traded him. And that's actually what messed me up with the league that I barely made the playoffs in. My plan, because Jared Goff was supposed to be so good, I drafted Aaron Rodgers #1 for my quarterback, and then I came back and got Jared Goff, and I knew without a shadow of a doubt, Jared Goff was gonna light the NFL up. I'm gonna trade Aaron Rodgers, and I'm gonna have like the best team in the league, and neither one of them got off to a good start. So,
no,
yeah,
I told you,
Jared Goff you were right. Like Jared Goff, he disappointed me.
On my list.
Yeah, he was number 2 or 3 on my list. So,
oops. Honestly, obviously, your 3 right there. That outside of Lamar Jackson, I don't see anything wrong with Jared Goff because of the year he had.
I do now.
But now you do. But I'm just saying,
right.
Looking back,
yeah,
you can't. It's not a bad choice. But at the end of the day, you always got to stick with your Brees, your Brady's, and your Mahomes as your top 3. Obviously, anybody after that, this is second tier to me.
Right.
So Goff was a second tier quarterback. That's why I told you.
He's definitely a second tier quarterback.
He's a second tier quarterback.
So I'm not going to draft him next year, and he'll probably be the #1 quarterback in the league. Is what I'm.
Who? No.
Nope. Still no.
Third. The way he played this year, he's going to be a low end, probably second tier quarterback next year.
Yeah.
And in 2 quarterback drafts, your first 2 rounds you're going quarterbacks anyway. So, yes, he's going to be your second quarterback, not your #1.
Yeah.
Now, Mahomes, even though he's had not a bad year, but it's down a little bit. He's still going to be the #1 quarterback coming in.
Yeah. If you take away that injury, I think he's still top 10, but he definitely is not quite, where probably most people that drafted him probably were expecting a lot more than they got from him.
That's the same thing with Brady, though. Brady hasn't lived up to the top 3 status.
But this was supposed to be the year Brady went down. That's what you remember. We was looking at a bunch of the books that Brady wasn't in the top 20 and something. We were like, that's the stupidest thing ever, because we were both like, how is Brady that low? So Brady's not where we would typically see him, but compared to where people were predicting him to be, I think he's doing all right.
Well, they had him listed, if I'm not mistaken, they had him listed right at 21, 22.
Yeah, something like that.
Right along with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins was #2 this year in all the magazines.
Right.
And I was like, they got him down there with Kirk Cousins. I was like, this is insanely crazy. I was like, we're talking about Tom Brady here.
Exactly.
But it's now that the season is coming along, you see that, hey, you know what? They might have been on something.
Yeah.
But they also had it wrong. They had Lamar Jackson at #20.
Yeah.
23.
I don't think anybody got Lamar Jackson right. But because we remember from the playoffs last year, what was it? The game he threw for like 17 yards or something like that. It's like everyone thought, okay, he's gonna run the ball. He's probably gonna break his ankle, or he's gonna get RG3'd, and
the injury scare is really what gets you. So it's like you gotta kind of be careful with that because he's a running quarterback.
Yeah.
So he can get hurt at any point. So you gotta be prepared for that. So it depends really on your preference. But I like your top 3 so far. Who's your other 2?
The other 2, I went with Matt Ryan. We both like Matt Ryan, I think.
Love you some Matt Ryan. Okay.
I love him most days. Matt Ryan is just annoying because every once in a while he'll just have these bad games, and it's like, how with the wide receivers you have, I don't understand how you can get low numbers. It depends on your scoring league, but in one particular league I'm in, it's not very, very quarterback friendly, and he had like a single digit number for his score, and I was like, you're Matt Ryan. You know what I'm saying? If you don't throw at least one touchdown a game, something's wrong. But overall, he's worked out pretty well for me. The other one I had on my list before was Let me see. Hold on. I actually have it written down. I didn't draft him anywhere,
What?
but I wanted Russell Wilson.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yes, Russell. Hey, look where he is right now. Russell Wilson is a top quarterback, and with Tyler Lockett on that team, yo, he puts up numbers.
So you left out somebody. You left out a
Drew
quarterback
Brees.
that's a top 5 quarterback.
Is your boy Brees or
No,
okay?
Aaron Rodgers.
Well, I talked about Aaron Rodgers. Well, I drafted him. Did I not say he was in my top?
But you didn't put him in your 5.
Oh well, I told y'all I drafted him, so I must like him, right? So
No.
Yes, Aaron Rodgers is. Aaron Rodgers is always on the list, but I do have issues with Aaron Rodgers, similarly to Matt Ryan, because he started off this year so he's picked it up, but the first few games it's like, but that's the difference between real NFL football and fantasy football. Aaron Rodgers is a smart quarterback. He's going to do what he has to do, and a lot of times it doesn't require throwing. I want him to throw 4 touchdowns, but he won't always do it for me. So you got to.
The offense changed though, so you got to think about the
and they really struggled with that offense change at the beginning of the year. They got better with it. Another team about that you mentioned earlier, Kirk Cousins. They were really struggling with that. It's like you have Kirk Cousins, you have to throw the ball. I don't understand why they were trying to run so much.
Kirk has won me a few championships.
Yeah, I like Kirk. I just think they weren't doing well with him at the beginning. That's why he had the revolt with the wide receivers. They're like, yo, throw us the ball. Look at the talent he has at wide receiver.
Well, you got to think about it. They're paying their wide receivers together like almost $200 million.
Yeah,
like, you gotta pay them, like seriously. So you got both receivers with big contracts. They want the ball. So, and then you got your running back there who want to eat too. But at the same time, they came in and changed the whole playbook. And they ran the ball 30 times. It's crazy that he threw the ball 11 times one game. 11 for the whole entire game. That's just crazy.
That's
and I
insane.
had him playing that week, and I lost. He gave me literally he had me single-digit points.
Yeah.
That game.
And
that cost me a lot this year. So, I don't know.
Is that in one of the leagues that you didn't make the playoffs, or did you make the playoffs in that league?
I didn't make the playoffs. I went 4-8-1 in that league because I had Kirk Cousins as my starting quarterback. In those first 4 games, he was not doing completely nothing.
Yeah.
And I had to bench him for Trubisky, who didn't do anything either. So it was like it went from
speaking of things I got wrong, Trubisky though. I don't know what to make of him because I thought that's another player I thought was going to be a lot better. And I was like, Trubisky is a guy you can draft late in your draft and still get top 10 quarterback play from. That was not the case most of the time. But he regressed tremendously. Now, in the last couple of weeks, he's been on point. So we'll see whether that continues. I need it to continue because that's in one of my leagues. I'm trying to, win that chip. So we'll see.
I get it,
But that's did we leave out anybody from your list that we need to talk about quarterback?
My list is normal. I had basically the Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees. I consider Drew Brees the top 3 quarterback every year just because of the fact they throw the ball a lot.
Oh.
So you have to kind of consider that. Anytime you can get a quarterback that throws 300 plus yards a game and can get you 2 touchdowns or more, he has to be at the top.
Yeah.
Because he's averaging that. So, and then you got Aaron Rodgers, of course. And then I didn't have Brady at 3, but I had Brady in my 5. I had who did I have? Brady. I had Rodgers.
I know you had Matt Ryan.
Matt Ryan's my number 3.
Right.
So it was those 3, and then it was kind of a toss up after that. I know a couple guys had Kyler Murray as a top 10 quarterback, and I almost lost my mind a little bit.
It's not quite Lamar Jackson level, but I was like, there's no way Kyler Murray is going to be that much. But he's been nice this year. He's been a lot better than I thought he would be.
So you had Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, and then obviously Brady at 5, and I can't think of my fourth quarterback right now. I'm having kind of a brain fart, but
famous Jameis. Famous Jameis.
No, it was the quarterback that you drafted that retired.
Oh, Andrew Luck.
Luck. Yeah, Luck was my top 5.
Okay. Neither one of us said Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, because a lot of books had him one.
Yeah, I drafted him in one of the leagues, but
he fell to 10.
Yeah,
in one of the leagues. So I had him in the top 10, but I didn't have him as a top 5.
Right.
Because you gotta think about it. The quarterback from Atlanta, he threw for 5,500 yards last year. So you got to think about that's a lot of yards to be throwing for, and if he ain't top 3, something is totally wrong.
Yeah.
If he's putting up 5,500 yards, and he threw for like 40 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't remember the number. It was a lot. It was a lot
of touchdowns. So it's like, yes, he's in your top 3 easy because he was up there with Mahomes for the race last year. So even though Mahomes won it, he still got a vote or two just because of the fact he threw for that many yards. And a lot of people don't realize, like, Big Ben threw for 5,000 yards last
year. Yeah, that's another one of my draft, not mistakes, but one of the things that went horribly wrong for me. So, yeah.
So moving forward, being that we're going into the postseason for fantasy football, what do you expect? What did you expect from certain players going into the postseason? Who are you rolling with as far as your starting lineups? Who do you think will do work this year?
Right.
It's all matchup based. So what do you think, going into this postseason, how you feel about the players you have and some players that you think will do work?
Oh, I have one playoff rule. Go with the guys that got you there. You know what I'm saying? I don't bench my studs no matter what the matchup is. You're in. I'm going to tell the story. I hope he's watching or watches this later. We have a mutual friend of ours, who missed the playoffs. And I don't know if you looked at it. He had Deshaun Watson. Part of the reason I brought him up. Benched him for Nick Foles. Last week. You didn't notice it? I looked at it and I was like, I know you can figure out who this is. It's the guy who always overthinks stuff. Way too. And so I saw this. And I'm like, you never bench Deshaun Watson, no matter what. Now, I'm trying to get in his mind, right? You're playing against the Patriots all the time. Well, Patriots number 1 fantasy defense in a lot of leagues, and say again.
He's benched his whole team.
He's benched his whole team. Yes.
So we talk about the same person. I know.
Oh well, I know. Once I said it, I knew you were gonna know who I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And that's the kind of stuff that'll mess you up in the playoffs. You gotta just go with your guys. Don't try to switch up the formula, especially if you made it to the playoffs. If you're in the playoffs right now, you were doing something right. So I'm just going staying with your dudes. Now, who I expect to do well in the playoffs, it's going to be a bunch of the same names that we said in our top 5 as far as quarterbacks. I don't really see any of that changing. I know another name we did not mention. I'm trying to decide how I feel about him for my play. I don't have him. I would never draft this guy. And I don't think you would too. Dak Prescott.
Oh, no, I don't like him.
But look where he's been. He's been top 2, 3 quarterback in fantasy, depending on your scoring league. I don't want him though. I can't get around. I've seen him without Ezekiel Elliott, and I know you're gonna say, well, he has Ezekiel Elliott, so it doesn't matter. It matters to me.
Honestly, Zeke hasn't played well.
Yeah.
If you're looking at fantasy numbers, Zeke has averaged 45 yards over the last 3 games.
I was looking at the most Zeke had the threat of suspension or sitting out, whatever it was. So a lot of people didn't draft him maybe as early as they normally would have. But if you have Zeke, you're expecting to have the top 2-3 running backs. I was looking at the numbers in one of these, and he's barely top 10 in fantasy right now. Ezekiel Elliott is.
Is that based on PPR or is that
that's PPR? Yeah, that's a PPR list. So it's
okay. Because if you're thinking about PPR, he is a PPR running back.
Yeah.
Because he does both. He catches out the backfield and he runs.
But are you happy with Ezekiel Elliott at number 10 with what you probably spent to get him?
No, because if you drafted him, you got.
If he's not number 1, he needs to be number 2. Well, after Christian McCaffrey, who we haven't talked running backs, but that is my dude right there.
Well, you got to think about this. Most leagues are running back driven leagues, right?
Yeah.
So running backs go first most of the time. So a running back like Ezekiel Elliott is either going 1 or 2, and I'm sure he went 1 this year a lot in most leagues.
Yeah.
He's not giving you 1 production. He's giving you number 10 production right now. Top three running backs should have been
McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, who obviously disappointed, but I'm going to blame the injury for some of that, and Ezekiel Elliott. Those were the 3 that you were expecting to be at the top, right?
Well, I don't blame the injury for Saquon Barkley. I blame the fact that the O-line was trash.
The Giants suck, basically.
The Giants are trash in general. So you can't blame
But they sucked last year, and he did all right.
But they was all right though.
They were less sucky, yeah.
To kind of do something, but they started the rookie this year, and they started him midway after like 5 or 6 games, and Eli wasn't playing any better, so they stuck 8 in the box.
Right.
So when you stick 8 in the box, you can't do nothing anyway. And Eli was throwing ducks out there, so kind of it's like you can't really blame it on him if he had a better. And then you trade OBJ. So obviously you take that threat away from the outside. So it's like you don't have that threat anymore. So they're going to throw 8 in the box. Then they're going to probably bring somebody else down.
Right.
Because all you can do is run the ball.
Right.
So, but McCaffrey was always number 1 on my list.
Yeah.
Because I seen what he did last year. And I had him last year. And I'm like, McCaffrey going to ball out. Because
he did.
He gets all of the carries.
I didn't have high enough draft picks to really do a lot of that. But I did manage to get McCaffrey in one league, and I got Saquon Barkley in another. And I wish I had just gone with Christian McCaffrey in both of them, because
I feel like even in the quarterback league, and we play in a quarterback driven league.
Yeah.
I feel like even if say you get that number, I guess the number 1 pick.
Right. This was the number 1 pick. So this was the number 1. The one when I drafted Saquon Barkley, I had the number 1, and I was flipping a coin: Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, and my coin was defective. So that's the only league I had that a chance to even make that choice in. So.
Well, because in one of our leagues, he's putting up quarterback numbers.
Yeah.
Every week.
I have him in that league.
I know.
And that's why I'm in the playoffs.
Quarterback numbers.
Yeah.
So he's putting about 40, 45, 50 points a game in that league.
Yeah.
When you account for yardage, bonuses, and all that stuff when it kick in. But if I had to do it all over, I'm going McCaffrey, probably my
100.
second pick outside of a quarterback.
Yeah.
Because he's going to make up for what your quarterback don't do at the end of the day. So, I mean,
do you expect that Do you expect that to continue with the breaking? Well, it's not breaking anymore, but earlier this morning, breaking news of them firing their coach. Do you think they're going to?
I feel like it's going to be the same.
Yeah.
Now, what I do think is going to change is Cam is gone, obviously.
Yeah, Cam has been gone. Yeah.
So I mean, but with the coach there, he was going to kind of bring Cam back. Right. I think. But now that he's gone, Cam is pretty much
Cam is gone.
He's gone. So,
yeah, I'm thinking more about just for the playoffs right now. Do you think anything changes McCaffrey's workload? I'm thinking not.
No,
Yeah.
I feel like he's still gonna get his 25 carries a game, and he's gonna get another 5 or 10 touches out of the backfield because they have nothing else outside of
to
Moore.
go. Right.
You know, Moore is the only one that's doing work outside of him. So
yeah,
it's like,
so he's pretty much the
offense.
offense.
They're on a 4-game losing streak, so they got to get him the ball regardless. So that's the only way they're gonna win.
Yeah.
So I think he's gonna do work, and I feel like you got a lot of quarterbacks in like playoff time. I think that's gonna actually kind of do work this year. I like Fitzpatrick may be somebody.
I hope so.
Right.
It sounds crazy, right? But I have in that league where Andrew Luck. This is going to be my theme for the whole show. When Andrew Luck retired, I ended up with what am I talking about? I ended up with Fitzpatrick, and I have Josh Rosen on that same league because I was like, I don't know who the quarterback's going to be. So I've been rolling with Fitz these last few weeks. Hey,
Fitz is going. I got him starting in one of my leagues this year, and I'm telling you,
I like Fitz.
He put up 75 points in that league last week.
That's
so
like,
he's definitely somebody you can lean on.
The good thing about the Dolphins is they always suck, so he's always throwing. So
they always throwing the ball.
Yeah.
That's why I tell people I have a thing about fantasy quarterbacks. You never get the quarterback that actually wins. That's always winning for real because they're always ahead.
Right.
So they're not gonna throw the ball 30 times. You get somebody that like a Jameis Winston who's always behind, but he always gonna throw the ball 30 times a game regardless. 30 or 40 times because they always losing.
The other week, was that the Thursday night game? Lamar Jackson. The only reason I won that week was because he was doing so well. They had to bench him in the fourth quarter, and as someone who was playing against him, I was like, "Thank you, Lord," because this dude was just phenomenal. So yeah, that's something you have to take in consideration. You want a good quarterback on a bad team. That's what.
Exactly.
So.
And that's Kirk Cousins.
That is Kirk Cousins
Kirk
for
Cousins
real.
is not on a bad team now, but Kirk Cousins, if you notice over the last 5 games, Kirk Cousins has threw for over 300 yards, and he's throwing more completions, more yards, more touchdowns.
He's in the conversation for MVP if you listen to it, and no one would have thought that at the beginning, the way they were doing it at the beginning of the season, right?
So, but I'm glad he's doing that because I got him and Fitzpatrick starting this week in the 2 quarterback league. So I'm taking it.
Oh yeah, that sounds good.
Hey, I'll take anything I can get right now. I'm doing pretty well in that league though, so I'm good. So, and I think a running back that's gonna do well in the fantasy plot is Fournette. Fournette is touching the ball 35 times a game.
Right.
Like they force feeding him the ball.
Yeah.
And he's getting 100 plus yards.
Yeah, he's been nice
off of those 35 carries.
The one thing about playing in 6 leagues like I do, I have every player. So I have Fournette in one of my leagues. I love him.
Fournette is the one you want to hold on to. Now, the one I'm kind of afraid of that's going to probably be more disappointing is Phillip Rivers. Rivers,
it's not a typical Phillip Rivers year. Yeah.
So, and I got him too in the league, and I'm kind of shaky, but I have to start him because he's one of my top.
I think this is one of the first years I didn't have Phillip Rivers in some league. I don't have him anywhere.
I have a blacklist. He might be going on my blacklist. So, I don't know about
He's joining Matthew Stafford, who got on your list years ago, right?
He might come back on my list.
Oh, really?
I might have to bring him back on the list.
Okay.
Stafford's been playing well, so I'm not even going to say that no more. So, we're going to see. So, it's we'll see. Now, we got about maybe 20 minutes left, people. You want to check the feed to see if any questions we can answer somebody?
While I'm checking, I do have one question I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
A player who was good early this year, but obviously for you'll be able to say why as soon as I say his name. David Johnson. Do you have any faith in him for the playoffs? I'm not saying any questions posted yet, but
okay.
What are you doing with David Johnson for the playoffs? Is he just stuck on your bench? Yeah.
Keeping him on the bench. I think it's honestly, I have my opinion on this. I really think is the coach, and I say it because he's coming from college, so he's used to running 2 or 3 running backs in college, and he's bringing that to the pros. But honestly, to me, I think it's kind of crazy. You have David Johnson, he's a dual threat out of the backfield and catching and running. So it's like you will play him, if I'm not mistaken. Honestly, I think he's going to be gone this year. After this year, I think he's going to get traded. Somebody else can get him because I wouldn't be happy if I was him.
Right.
And that's just me. But I have him in our league.
How injured do you think he is?
I don't think he's injured.
Yeah.
I don't. I think it's more the coach. It's a preference for the coach who he want to play.
Right.
I don't think he's hurt.
I know he was earlier, but it's like I don't know. He has a history with getting injured sometimes, but it seems like that's not like I'm with you in the case. I don't know if that's the case because it's been a couple of weeks where he didn't do this. Not David Johnson's fault, but like they were saying, oh, he's healthy, he's gonna play, and he was out as soon as the game. So you got 2 weeks, like it's like 2 times in 3 weeks where he was giving you a goose egg, and there was no warning. Hey, he might not play. So I'm like, is it an injury? Like you say, is it a coach's decision? I'm not sure. This is what we need Matthew Berry to come in and give us an answer. Maybe he knows.
Well,
but
I think if you go back, I want to say this. He got hurt.
Yeah.
And a week after that, the coach said, "Okay, he's gonna play. He's good to go. He's gonna get his normal reps." And he never
been the same since.
For
Yeah.
one play, and never got back on the field.
Yeah.
So after that's when they traded it for the kid.
Get Kenyon Drake.
And Kenyon Drake, and he never touched the field after that. So it's like, okay, what do you do? It's like Kenyon Drake. I don't know. Kenyon Drake might be a better fit for that offense, honestly, because he might be a little bit faster than David Johnson. And he might fit the scheme with Kyler Murray,
what he
but
trying
I
to
just
do?
don't understand how you sit somebody like David Johnson. I just don't know. Because he was playing well early in the year.
Yeah, beginning of the season, he was on fire because I had him and Christian McCaffrey in the same league on the same team, and it's like, hey, my quarterback situations didn't even really matter that much because I had 2 running backs putting in heavy work, and so that it's just been weird because it's like if he's hurt, say he's hurt and sit him, but like you said, I don't know what to do with. He's gonna. I'm with you. He's gonna stay on my bench. That's where he's been the last few weeks. I've got no reason to think that's gonna be any different in the playoffs.
Well, that's what he's been on my bench, and then another person that's kind of been disappointing, but he's more been hit or miss, and that's Julio. Julio's been hit or miss. But you have people like Jarvis Landry who's been balling lately, who I'm gonna rely on heavily in the playoffs.
And he was earlier in the season. I had Jarvis Landry on my bench because Cleveland just started off terribly. But somewhere around the midseason, they finally, I guess, started figuring it out. So he's been one of my main starters recently. I love Jarvis.
And back to the previous conversation we had about the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You know they had Baker Mayfield as a top 5 quarterback, right?
Yeah, I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was because we was in this joint one of our drafts and people said, "Oh, Baker Mayfield," and I was like, "Okay, y'all go ahead and do that. I'm gonna scoop right." Like, please pick Baker Mayfield because
take them off my hands, please.
I was scared I was gonna be forced to draft him. I was like, "Oh no, they're gonna pick the guys I want, and Baker Mayfield's gonna be my best option." And I was like, "Please don't let that happen to me."
It goes back to what you said. They had the book on him.
Yeah.
You gotta remember, he started the last 8 games, if I'm not mistaken, last year before he came in.
Yeah.
So he started the last 8 games.
Yeah.
He played well, but nobody had the book on him, so they didn't really know. So they went all summer and they learned his tactics.
Yeah.
His accuracy is really not that great.
No.
So that's one of his big issues. So he's really he a dink and dunk quarterback. That's why Landry right now is balling.
Yeah,
because
in that slot.
OBJ is not.
Yeah.
Because he can't hit
Oh.
OBJ to save his life.
If you drafted OBJ high, you are probably feeling miserable right now.
Well, you don't draft you shouldn't draft OBJ high anyway, because you remember the last year he was in New York, he only had 1,100 yards receiving.
Have we already seen the best he has? Is he on downhill?
I just don't know. I think it kind of, you can blame it on him, but you also can blame it on the quarterback. Baker Mayfield can't give him the ball because his accuracy is poor. But on the other hand, OBJ, I don't know if he's doing something wrong, because he's not getting separation like he used to.
Right.
And you kind of see that. So at the end of the day, if he's not getting separation, and then the quarterback not giving you the ball, it's like, okay, what do I do then? So he got to throw it down to the underneath, which is Landry, the tight end, and all that stuff. So, of course, but I think, to me, and just a bold prediction, I think OBJ might be gone in the next 2 years from Cleveland. I think he might end up somewhere else, because he's not happy there, obviously.
They put that team together. They had Super Bowl aspirations, and it's not happening. Definitely not this year. I don't see it happening long term. So they can't keep that squad together. So, yeah, I agree with you. He's gone somewhere. Because even if he was happy there, because, he's playing with his college mate, Jarvis, they're not going to keep that team together, because that team was put together to win the Super Bowl, and they don't have the talent.
I have a bold prediction. I think he'll end up in San Francisco next year.
I think you owe the audience a little disclaimer.
Well, the disclaimer is this.
Right.
I'm a 49ers fan. I've been a 49ers fan all of my life.
Right.
Like, anybody that know me know I've been a 49ers fan. I do games. I go sit in the rain. It's all good. I do it. So I'll fly to a game. It don't matter. That's the disclaimer. But I'm just stating the facts here. If you watch that game when we played Cleveland,
right?
Told Jimmy G, he said, come
he did. Yeah.
He did say that.
How did we go this whole show without mentioning your boy Jimmy G? He's been nice lately.
A lot of people don't.
I drafted him, and that's that same strategy I had with Jared Goff. I drafted Jimmy Garoppolo because I was like, he's going to be on fire. He is now. He was not at the beginning of the season.
He has a torn ACL.
Yeah.
He had tore his ACL last year, so it's like he's coming back from that to get to form. So I figure by real playoff time, I think he's going to be okay. Now, fantasy playoffs, you got to think about the stretch. You got New Orleans this week coming up.
Right.
You got Atlanta, which is probably an easy game for him. And then you got so we got New Orleans, Atlanta, we got the Rams, and we got St. Louis. We got Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
So that stretch of games outside of Seattle, I think we can beat New Orleans, and I think he can have a productive game. I'm starting him in one of my leagues anyway, so I think he's going to be productive.
Yeah.
Against Seattle and Atlanta, because Atlanta defense is horrible.
Yeah.
And the Rams, we already know what he can do against the Rams. So I think those three games, and pretty much that's championship week 16.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Will be the Rams. So it just, I like him,
Yeah.
But I'm biased, so I'm gonna say I like
you're
Jim.
biased, but I think you're right on this one. I like Jim.
Okay.
The only reason I'm not gonna start him is because that's the league where I have Aaron. That's one of the leagues where I have Aaron Rodgers, and I'm not benching.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can't bench him.
Well, I'm rolling with in the 2 quarterback league. I'm rolling with Aaron Rodgers and him. Aaron Rodgers and Garoppolo together. So you can't really go bad.
There's your argument for the 2 quarterback league. I would have to make that kind of decision. I could play them both.
So I like Jimmy G.
I like him.
So now, but you got like Carson Wentz, who's
I don't like
him.
him.
Like him and Jimmy G, you could put him on the same level because Carson Wentz has had good
You technically
games,
can. Yeah.
So
yeah, I think they end up being around the same. In fact, I think Carson Wentz is probably having a slightly better season overall. But I like in the long run, I think I like Jimmy G better.
Well, I think Jimmy G. I think next year now, if you're thinking about because people have to realize
Well,
that Jimmy G does not play a full 16-game season
right,
ever. So this is the first time he's playing 16 games.
right.
And coming from an ACL injury to playing 16 games, he got to get his footing right. So he's starting to show you he can throw the ball, but the thing is, our running game is so potent. He don't got to run the ball. He don't got to throw the ball like that.
Yeah.
Now, if you watch against Green Bay, that play action, when he does play actions to Kittles, unstoppable.
Yeah, completely.
So you got to kind of look at that too. So I don't know, but hold up. Being that we talk about my boy, what about your boy, Derek Carr?
I don't have a boy. No, I'm sorry.
Complete trash.
I think it's time for the show to end. What? I had so much hopes for Derek Carr, and none of it. Go back, what was that? About 3 seasons ago, 3 or 4 years ago, the Raiders were in the playoffs. The one playoff appearance they've made in the past 16, 17 years. And I was like, they finally had their quarterback. Derek Carr is the man. And I thought with, Chucky coming back to Oakland, he would bring it back out of him. I haven't seen it. I'm hoping it'll come out next year. I like their tight end, but
I love Weller.
Yeah, I love their tight end, but I don't know if that's really a compliment to Derek Carr or not.
No. Right, so
because
we have about 9 minutes left.
Yeah.
Just one more question for the people that didn't make the playoffs this year in none of their leagues. So just say they played in 1 or 2 leagues, they didn't make the playoffs.
Right.
So what advice would you give them going into next year? Because I know how we do. I kind of focus on fantasy football all year round.
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody want to talk to me about it, I'm going to talk to them about it. And it could be dead NBA season, and I'm still talking fantasy football because I have a strategy and I try to keep it going into next year. And, that's just my thing. But, what do you think people should do as far as that?
The answer to that is going to depend on why you're not in the playoffs. Because let's say it was a situation where you drafted Andrew Luck as your number 1 quarterback and he retired on you and you just never got, or you had some injury. Maybe you had Ben Roethlisberger and David Johnson on your team and you're just screwed over. If it's something that you say, I can pinpoint there was an injury that I just couldn't account for, maybe I give you a pass. Maybe. Because injuries happen. You got to get over it. You gotta find a way to come past there. But I give you a little bit of a not so much a pass as I understand. Maybe it's not you, but if you're a person who continually finds yourself not in the playoffs, it's you, and so you gotta really think about, okay, what am I doing wrong? And I tried, one of the leagues I'm commissioner in, I try to be helpful and give out little tidbits.
Yes.
Do this, do that. And I see some people do the same stuff every year after year. And I'm like, this is why you're always at the bottom of the league. I need you to step your game up. All the information is out there for you. You know what I'm saying? You and I, we do books. We're on websites. We do there's so many sources. Now you can listen to us, the R&J Fantasy Football Talk Show. But there's so many places you can go to get information. You got to immerse yourself in it. If you're bad continually at fantasy football, I'm gonna be convinced to the day I die is because you're not putting in the time. So
now,
evaluate how much time you put into it. Yeah.
A lot of people say that the time they don't have time. Or they're not dedicated. I feel like this, and maybe you feel the same. If you play in leagues for any financial gain, any type of money, to me it seems like you got to put more of an effort in that, because at the end of the day, you are spending, like for me, and you can.
We spend a lot of money, you and I.
I spend a lot lot of
We
money.
spend a lot of money on
A
fantasy
lot of money
football. Yeah.
on fantasy football. So
This is true.
I take it very seriously. So I start, if I'm out at, like, when the season's over with, I start and I kind of look back and, like, okay, what did I do wrong?
Right.
Who's on my blacklist? Who I'm not drafting no more?
Why did you draft Jared Goff?
Why did I draft him? You know, it's like that. So who I'm looking at next year, who I may think is good this year, or who I'm staying away from.
Right.
And you just got to have that sort of thing. So that's me. But if I had any advice for somebody, I would just say, just take it a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
Definitely do your homework. And if you're going, even if you do a live draft or a draft online, I mean, you still got to be able to have your paperwork in front of you to know who is your top 10 or your top 20 quarterbacks. But you don't have to go directly off your top 10.
Yeah.
You can go off preference that you want. And that's where people go wrong, because they want to go off the top 10. Okay, I want this person because he's number 2. No, go off your preference and what you want to do. And make sure you know the league rules, because
I was about to say that.
Too.
Definitely make sure you do know your scoring in your league. Because this one league I play in, like I mentioned earlier, is not quarterback friendly. I don't draft quarterbacks early in that league because it's pointless. I go with my running backs before I do anything else, because that's where you're going to get your points. Actually, that league is really wild, because you really get your points. You get a lot of points in that league off defensive players, which is not something I was used to. I'm starting to figure it out. But no, you have to know the scoring for your league and adjust your draft. And another point, start early. Start early, like you said.
Yeah.
Before we finish our I guess pilot season, before this playoff season's over, we'll probably do a show where we talk about guys you should look for next year. So if you didn't make the playoffs, you want to make sure you tune in for that show. I'm going to give you a few, and I know you'll have several underground folks.
Some, yes.
Yeah.
I have some you need to stay away from and some you need to draft. And it really, that depends on your league, because in one of our leagues, quarterbacks get, a point for every 10 yards, a point per per completion, and, bonuses kick in.
Yeah.
So a quarterback can have 115, 20 points in our league.
Yeah.
But you got to know what quarterback, if I had to do a draft over and I had to tell somebody, hey, you draft a quarterback. So basically, if you join, you know how you joined the league, and I told you, want to get a quarterback that's going to throw for 70, 80 points a game, not 50, because that 50 is not going to win you. It's not going to win you games. So you got to take that into consideration. You don't go draft somebody like
Andy Dalton,
obviously Jimmy G. That's not going to get you 80 a game, but might get you 60 a game. You can't win games like that. So you got to make sure you know your scoring. Make sure you know the rules. Make sure you know everything you need to know before you go into your draft. That way you can say, you know what, I'm ready to go. I feel confident. And, you just go straight ahead and be confident about your pick. At the end of the day, you got to work that pick when you get it. Can't make the trade. It's too late after that. So that's what I got for it.
Yeah.
So as far as we're going to be doing it same time, same channel, Wednesday night,
next week,
9 to 10. So going into next week, we're going to be talking about what happened last week in fantasy, as far as your top 3 quarterbacks or your top 5 quarterbacks from last week's fantasy playoffs, and if you won or you lost, and what can you do, going into next year that may have made you lose in the playoffs. Did you make a decision that wasn't right, or did you put a play in that didn't do work, and you left a play on the bench that you normally start? Like we know somebody did. So it's like kind of just go from there. So
don't screw yourself over, people in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Go with your studs. So, if you heard nothing else the whole night, go with your studs.
So I hope you enjoyed it, definitely, because this is the first one, and just give us a chance. The trial run. So we're just trying to do what we can for the public to make everybody else's fantasy life a little bit better. So, hey, roll with R&J. That's what we do. So,
all right.
And that's
good.
It. That's all I got.
All right. Thank y'all for listening. Leave us some comments. We hope that, like I said, we want this to be a conversation. We need you as part of it. So, that's it.
Exactly. If you have any questions, questions, we definitely get back with you during the week. Or we'll come back on Wednesday and we'll answer some questions for you.
All right.
So, all right, y'all have a good one.
Peace out.